All right, let's start going over chapter 9. We just got through chapter 8. We were talking about the Articles of Confederation and why it didn't work. And then they decided we needed to have something different. And that's where we came up with the Constitution. Not constipation. That's something you come up with when you've had too much, not something didn't work. But the Constitution. So when they come up with the Constitution, each delegate is going to take it back to a state and try and get approval so that everything can be ratified. Remember, ratified is the big word for approved, not ratatouille. That is a wonderful movie from Disney. So starting off, it starts with the preamble. And remember, right now, you are to be memorizing the preamble. You can pull it up on YouTube under Schoolhouse Rock. It's got a cute little song. There's a lot of different ways you can memorize it. It's quite easy, but you do need to have that down. It gives the list of the reasons and the goals for the new government. It is telling you, it's just the opening paragraph, summing it all up, telling you exactly what we're about to do. It begins with "we the people." And this is quite mind-blowing at that time because everybody had governments that were monarch after monarch after monarch, which was never about we the people. It was about I the king. And now we are in a country and we wanted everyone to know that it is not about one person. It is about we the people. Even today, our government is not about the president or the Congress. It is about we the people, and they should be up there representing us and our wants and needs. So we will continue on. There is right there a picture of the Constitution. You can see the preamble right there at the top and the words listed below. But please do be working on that for the quiz on that. The Constitution, it is divided into sections called articles so that you can find things and you can break it up. And you'll hear people say Article 1, Article 2, Article 3. And it's just basically divided into that, and those are the sections. The first article is Article 1, and it deals with the legislative branch. The legislative branch is a big word for Congress. Congress, you need to remember, is broke into two parts. You have on the left side of the building, you have the House of Representatives. That is based on population. You're going to have 435 seats. And then on the other side, you have the Senate, which is based on 2 per states. You have 100 people in there. And that was all to balance out the power of the big states and the small states. Congress, what is Congress supposed to be doing? Like I said, Congress is a big word for those 2 parts. Congress, their job is to make the laws. They are the ones who come up with the speed limits, come up with rules on guns. They come up with the laws. It's real interesting, though, because any citizen can propose a law. You may not vote on a law. You may not make a law, but you can propose a law. Things like with everybody must stop for a school bus. If you were the ones who years before this was going on, you saw this was a problem, you could write your congressman and say, I think we ought to have to stop at a school bus so that the kids can get across easy. And if Congress then looks at your idea and thinks that's a great idea, they can bring it up for you in which is so neat to think that you actually could have a voice in Congress. We just think of them doing all their little stuff up there by themselves, but you actually have the right to have that. And if you'll notice right there on the screen right there, you see the little bill right with it and everything. It's the little bill off the Schoolhouse Rock. That's letting you know that's 2 test questions. So please understand, Congress's job is to make laws, and anybody can propose it, but Congress gets to pass it. Like I said, also Article 1 breaks it down. It's based on population. The House of Representatives, 435 seats. They serve a 2-year period. This is why that the census is such a big deal. We're always talking about how you need to fill out the census and you need to fill out the census. Why does our government, you see so many people worried that people aren't filling out the census? That lets us know how many people we have, and when you answer those other questions, it gives Congress an idea about what you're thinking and what your goals are. If you don't fill out your census, you have no reason to complain about the government at any time. Census happens every 10 years. When you're older and it starts coming to you, please don't look at it as just an extra piece of paper. Fill it out, because population is very important on your number of representatives. Now, a House of Representatives person, they are called the lower house. It is only a 2-year commitment. Every 2 years, those people have to run again to see if they can be in the House of Representatives. 435 seats divided up by population. We're not going to be at 600 seats or 700 seats. They will take that 435 and divide it up equally again among those states. So if your state is growing or losing in population, on the next time we have a census, you'll see it reflected in the Senate. Now, in Congress. The Senate, though, is what's referred to as the upper house. It is just 2 per state. So once again, House of Representatives, representative of the population, Senate, 2 per state. This was totally done to balance the power between the big states and the small states. The small states being done by population, they would have more say, but you want each state to have an equal voice. And so they get to balance it all out, and they are considered the upper house. They serve a 6-year period. So that doesn't mean that you'll see them elected at different times. It's not like all of them come up at the same time. Some of them will be in your 2 years and your 4 years. They will pop in there. Not all of them come up at the same time, but it keeps us divided up, and it makes the elections. They have 100 seats even, because 2 per state. If we add more states, you will see more up there, but it is 2 per state. Let's keep on going. There is a picture of the Capitol building right there. You can see in the background, like I said, your left side, if you're looking at the screen straight on like me, your left side is your House of Representatives. Your right side is Congress right there. The Senate, which both those sides together make up Congress. And you can even see, if you look carefully at the pictures at the top, one's got little smaller seats, the other one's got big desks and everything like that. And so you can see one is a little bit bigger of a job to be a senator than than to be a representative. Capitol bill is on the back of a $50 bill. I will just have to take your word for that. I'm a teacher. I've never seen a $50 bill. Have seen 50 cents, not the wrapper, but 2 quarters together. So, all right. Article 1, then, it breaks down also how a bill will have to become a law. And this is interesting because I said any Senate or House, doesn't matter if you're lower or upper, you can propose a law. It will start, if you're in the House of Representatives and you propose it, it will start in there and then it'll have to work the Senate. Or if you're in the Senate and it starts over there, it will have to go to the House of Representatives. So it will go back and forth. How does a bill become a law? Anybody can propose it and bring it up. Then the bill has to go to committee. And let's just make up a law right now, just something to use. Let's go back to that stopping at school buses. I would say I could write my senator and say, hey, listen, I'm worried about the school buses, people not stopping for them. Can we make it a law that they have to have little stop signs to come out so I know to stop for a bus? I would send that to my congressman up there, either House or Senate, and then they could look at that and they could propose, hey, let's have a law about stopping for school buses. At that point, it goes to a committee, which you're going to have several people from other states involved into it, and then they all get to talk about it and try and make it work for each state. Because if it was just a small state where people are out there, like Kansas or something, you're going to have a different school bus situation than the kids being picked up on a school bus in Los Angeles. And if you just had one person viewing how to look at it from their own perspective, the laws are going to be tainted. So you will put into a committee. Once it goes to a committee and these states have looked at it and they decide, hey, this is a great law, let's go with this, it gets to go to, if it starts on the House of Representatives, it goes to the side on the House of Representatives. When that bill goes to their side, they will all vote on it. And let's say we are lucky and our bill was written so well, it passes. It now goes to the other side. It is now in the Senate. Once it gets over there, it goes to committee on that side. And all of a sudden, once again, where you said, okay, we need a thing coming out to stop the school buses, they're going to look at it. And once again, now it is based, you got 2 per state. It's an even look at it. It'll go through that committee. If they think it needs some changes or anything like that, they can send it back to the House of Representatives and it starts all over again. Then if they get it fixed to where they want it, they send it back to the other side. And then the other side has to look at it, going through a committee again, everybody looking at it. And if they find the bill perfect at that point, which honestly doesn't happen most of the time, it goes back and forth before anything ever gets taken or proposed where it's done. This is the whole point of all this great compromise. Is it isn't just one state suggesting a law and coming up with it. It isn't just one group. It is everybody representative. And you have to go through the committee so that other states can be looking at it. Let's say that the representatives find it okay. They send it over there. The committee finds it no problem over there, and they vote on it on the Senate. Now it is approved on both sides. The big states agree. The small states agree. Now it goes to the president. The president then has the power to say yes or no. The big fancy word for no is veto. All right. This is not that Italian guy that lives down the street. That's veto with an I. The veto, fancy word for no. Now the president he says yes, and now that it is on its way to becoming a law, and that everybody will follow across the United States. If he says veto, it goes all the way back to the beginning and starts all over again. But having this is going to, we'll talk about here in a minute, talk about the checks and balances. This is exactly what it is. It's not just one side getting to do something. They have to go back and forth until they've agreed. And then the next branch of government has to agree onto it too. Also, it's not just one group of people or one person that is dividing or leading the country or whatever. It is a group, and that is the wonderful part of the Constitution. Very well thought out, very well planned out. If the president, it's something, let's say everybody agrees on, you need to stop for a school bus sign, and the president is in a bad mood and doesn't like it and says, you know what, veto, you can go right past a school bus at 100 miles an hour. Well, then the Congress can look at that and go, well, that's stupid. And if 2/3 majority of Congress says, you know what, sorry, president, you can't say that, we need to stop for school buses, they can override the president. We always think is the president having the most power. Actually, where the most power comes from in our government is from Congress, because they can override the president. But once again, do you notice it's not a 51%? Because once again, in any election, things could change a little bit, and you might just have only 51% of the people in that part. But with 2/3, now you're looking at a chunk of the country. It's very well thought out on how to override something and what takes to become a law. If you want to watch this right now, I will not, but it is the I'm Just a Bill from Schoolhouse Rock, which is the easiest way in the world to memorize that for your quiz. All right. Article 2, this is the executive branch, all right? The executive branch is the president. And let me back up just for a second real quick. Other powers of Congress, I skipped ahead in my notes right there. Other powers of Congress that they have, they get to decide how to spend our taxes. It's not the president, it's not the judicial branch. Who's deciding how we get to spend our taxes is Congress. Right now, them talking about the relief bill for everybody with this COVID thing going on. It's Congress that's going back and forth deciding. It's not the president, it's not the judicial branch, it's Congress that's going to decide. They also have the power to raise an army. The president is going to be called commander-in-chief because he leads the military, but it's not him who gets to decide if we raise an army. What I mean by raising an army, it's the draft. If all of a sudden we need a bunch of soldiers, president can't just start a draft. That is strictly done by Congress. They get to decide. Congress gets to decide if they could declare war. We can't go against another country just because the president wants to attack, or if, somebody, it has to be decided by Congress to go to the war. Now, like I said, the president is considered the head of the military. If you remember under Obama, there was the time that we went and took out bin Laden. That was not a voted on by Congress thing, because then bin Laden would know we were coming for him. The president can order a military strike on that one person. He could not declare war on Afghanistan or declare war on Pakistan, wherever bin Laden was at that time. He would have to literally be able to command the Navy SEAL Team 6 that went and got him. But he is never given the power to declare war. Every time we've went to war with the country, it has been declared by Congress. They also have the power to pay governmental debts. This is some power they have not exercised in about 30, 40 years of paying off any of our debts. As you can see, the debt clock just keep going up. We talk about the president when we talk about citizenship. It's not him that does that. The citizenship is granted by Congress again. We underestimate the power that Congress really has in all of this stuff. They get to approve the executive appointments. The president does not just pick anybody to be that. He has to pick them, and then they have to approve it. And so once again, it's that check and balance power in there of they've got to, one side can say this, but the other side has to approve of it, or you can't do anything. And they get to help establish the federal court. So that is their powers as Congress. Now back to Article 2. Article 2, the executive branch. This is the president. He is the head of the executive branch. Once again, he is elected by, as you know from the last test, if you haven't taken it yet or not, the Electoral College, which is the number of representatives you have from each state, which balances out the House of Representatives the way they do it. And so that's how you always see when you're watching for that magic number on the vote night, is it's determined by the number of representatives from each state. Now, we already mentioned that the representatives serve 2 years. A person in the Senate serves 6 years. The president serves 4 years. So you can almost see president's a little more important than the representative, not as important as a congressman. We always put too much elevation onto the president on this just because it's the one person. It's the single name we can remember instead of trying to remember the whole 100 congressmen, 100 senators that are in there. They serve a 4-year period. His job is to carry out the laws, to make sure that things are going like they should be. I say it serves a 4-year period. The reason that you see a president serve a 4-year period and then serve another 4-year period and then it's done, can't serve again, goes all the way back to George Washington. George Washington was elected once. Then he was elected a second time. He was being nominated to be running for a third time. And that's when Washington said that no one should serve more than 2 times due to the fact that it becomes right back to what we had. You're right back to a monarchy where one person is in charge and just continues to be in charge. And so it was not a law, but Washington said it and it made total sense. So every president since that, up until FDR, followed. They would do 4 years if they got elected again, 4 years, and then they would quit. You even had Grover Cleveland, who that one time served a 4-year period, took 4 years off, and then 4 years again. And so he was the only ever non-consecutive president we've had. But it's always been a standard. You don't do more than 2 terms. Till you get to FDR. FDR ran 1 term, got it, ran 2 terms, got it, and then said, I don't care what Washington said. It's not a great idea. I like to be president again. And he runs, he gets a 3rd time, and then decided, you know what, going to run for president again. Got it the 4th time, even though they kind of knew at that point he was not going to live much longer. And that's why the vice presidential pick under him was so huge. Do your song. You can figure out who the vice president was. And so after FDR died, that's when we have the 22nd Amendment. The amendments are where you can change the Constitution some, and it is now a law. You serve 8 years, you cannot serve anymore. And so no one will ever be able to go for a 4th term. Even though he really only served 3 and a couple months, he did get elected for a 4th term. FDR is going to challenge several things like that. We end up having where you got 9 Supreme Court justices and everything, and he is going to be the one that tries to add more Supreme Court justices just so he gets his way. He wanted to put his judges in so he can get his way. Congress shut him down. See, right here is where you start to see that Congress has more power than the president. The president under FDR is like, you know what, going to pack the courts, going to do what I want. And Congress said that is a horrible idea. That would lead to every president just packing the court to do whatever he wanted and get his way. And Congress shut them down. They need to make this an amendment because it could start to be where every president starts to pack and pack and pack and pack. And that would just be nothing but problems. 9, the reason they have 9, odd number, you're not going to get a 4-4 tie. You're going to get a 5-4 split or a 4-5 split, something like that. So do that. All right. Now, keep on going. There is the White House and everything. You can see that is on the back of the $20 bill. Once again, haven't seen one of those either. All right. Article 2 also says the president is in command of the military. That's what I was talking about when he's called the commander-in-chief. and you'll hear him called that all the time. He can declare a seal strike, things like that, but he cannot declare war. He has to go before Congress and ask for permission to declare war if he wants to. He gets to make treaties. He can talk to another country. He can talk to Pakistan and say, you know what, let's have peace right now. I will do this or this. He can't declare war on him, but you can make peace with any country you wanted to, which once again, you see the genius of this Constitution, that they will not let you declare war, but you can make peace. And so once again, it's taking power out of one person. It puts power right back into the Senate every time it gets. Other things that happens, the president is in charge of granting pardons. You want to have fun, go back and look at all the presidents that grant these pardons. You will see some grant 50 pardons, 25. Then you'll see some that will grant several hundred pardons. Pardon is excusing somebody for a crime they've committed or anything like that. You pardon somebody from a crime. The president also gets to choose the judges. Does he get to approve the judges? No. Just because he chooses one doesn't mean that's what happens. So he can choose a judge, and if the Congress doesn't like him, they can kick him out, and he has to choose again. Congress doesn't like it, he has to choose again. And that's happened before. Well, they'll keep bringing them up, and they keep shooting them down. It's the whole check and balance thing. It's not just one person putting in a Supreme Court judge or a judge at all. It is a collective group, one person picking, the other approving. My mom used to make us do this when we were kids. If there was one brownie, one of you got to cut it in half and the other got to choose first. Because then the person cutting it in half, I remember that we were down there almost with like math tools trying to make sure it was exactly 50% of that brownie because I knew the other guy was going to choose first. That's a check and balance thing. Same thing going on here with our government. The president can't just bully people around, do what he wants. He has to have Congress's approval on everything. He does have what's called a cabinet. A cabinet is the group of people that work with him. The cabinet for the president includes the State Department. They handle foreign relations and everything like that. You have the Justice Department. You'll hear this is where you get your alphabet soup: CIA, FBI, DOJ. All the alphabets that you see for anything to do with the police and everything. The national level of police. It is not involving our little police in town or our local police, things like that. It is referring to the national level, the federal level of the police. He's also in charge of the Health and Human Services. This is where you get your Food and Drug Administration, your Environmental Protection Agency, things that we need as citizens also. That is what makes up his cabinet. But to be on this, once again, Congress got to approve these things. And so it is not just one person dominating. Real quick, go through this part. To be a House member, that's the 2-year one. That's not the biggest deal. You have to be age 25. That's not that old. And you have to have been living in the United States for 7 years, a citizen for 7 years. They don't want somebody moving from Russia and becoming a House of Representatives. That would be horrible. You have to have lived here for at least 7 years as a citizen. To be in the Senate, you have to be at least 30 years old. See, from 25 to 30, do you see it's getting to be a bigger deal and everything like that? And you have had to live in the state as a citizen for 9 years. Then you have the president, who has to be 35 years old. He has to be a natural born citizen, born in the United States. We don't want somebody, the one person in charge, moving from Russia, moving from China, and just all of a sudden being placed in as president. That could lead to power. So once again, you're seeing the people in the Constitution really thinking everything out about how long you should live in the United States, how old you should be, because age does mean wisdom, which should make me really smart. It doesn't, but you would think it would. But age does mean wisdom. So the guy being 35, he's got a little more wisdom. If I was to go back to my 25 as compared to the 25 that I am now and everything like that, different guy completely. And so I understand why they do what they do. All right. Article 3, we are going to jump into that in just a second. I'm going to pause because it's already been 20-some minutes, and I know you're bored. You can go drink a Mountain Dew so that you can handle listening to me for a little bit right here in a minute, and then come back. But thank you. See you again in a moment.